The storm was angry that night. Wind howled through the broken skeletons of old metal towers. Acid rain slammed against the roof of the wrecked shelter where Davenhold sat, wrapped in an old emergency blanket. His fire crackled low, the only light in a world swallowed by ash and cold. This moon, Virel 9, had been dead for decades. No ships, no settlers, just scavengers like Davin, surviving day by day, fixing old tech, and selling scrap to orbit smugglers. He was used to silence. But tonight, he heard something strange. A knock. Soft, weak, he froze. No one should be out in this storm. The knock came again, slower this time. Cautiously, Davin stood and grabbed his old plasma wrench. He crept to the heavy door and opened it just a crack. What he saw made him blink twice. A small figure stood there shaking. She looked like an alien elder, barely over 4 feet tall, covered in a thin tattered shawl soaked with acid rain. Her skin was silver gray and peeling, and her big cloudy eyes blinked up at him with desperate hope. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she took one small step forward and collapsed onto the ground. Instinct moved faster than doubt. Davin dropped the wrench and pulled her inside. Her skin sizzled softly from the acid residue, and she smelled of old dust and strange flowers. He laid her gently near the fire and wrapped another blanket around her. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she coughed, a dry, rattling sound, and whispered a few words in broken Galactic basic. Warm, thank you. Davin sat back, heart racing. Who are you? What are you doing here? She didn't answer. Her eyes fluttered closed. He sighed, angry at himself for caring. He could have ignored her. Most would have. This moon wasn't kind to the soft-hearted. He should have left her outside and let the storm take her. But as he looked at her fragile body curled by the fire, he remembered his mother, also small, also once left behind in a refugee center during the Arden collapse. He had been too young to help her then. Maybe this was something he could make. Right. The storm roared louder, shaking the walls. Davin checked her burns. Mild superficial acid exposure. He applied salve, rubbed warmth into her fingers, and draped more fabric over her feet. She stirred under his touch, whispering again, Mari, my name, Mari. He nodded. Davin, you're safe here for now. She tried to smile. Her lips cracked, but she managed a soft look of thanks. As hours passed, the storm raged on, but inside the shelter, a fragile peace began to settle. Mari remained quiet, barely eating the dried rations Davin offered, but she watched him closely. Her eyes followed every move he made, not with fear but curiosity. That night, as Davin sat near the fire, repairing an old transmitter, he felt her gaze on him again. He looked up. She was sitting now, wrapped like a tiny ghost in the blanket, staring silently. Something wrong? He asked. She tilted her head. You help. No want reward? Davin chuckled, shaking his head. You got nothing I need. Just try to stay alive. She didn't laugh, but she looked down, touched the blanket, and nodded slowly. As the fire dimmed, Davin turned in for the night, lying on the cot with one eye open. Something about this whole thing didn't sit right. She'd survived out. There alone? In that storm? Barefoot? It didn't make sense. Yet she seemed so weak, so old. He closed his eyes, letting the hum of the wind lull him. But something pulled him awake just an hour later. The fire had grown brighter. That was impossible. He hadn't fed it. He sat up. Mari was standing now, not bent or shivering, but tall and perfectly still. Her blanket had slipped off, and her silver skin shimmered faintly in the firelight. Her posture was regal, her eyes glowing softly, not cloudy like before. She didn't notice him staring. She just stood there, watching the flames dance, her face calm, almost sad. Davin stayed quiet, frozen by something he didn't understand. She turned, looked directly at him, and for a moment, he saw something behind her eyes, not weakness, but deep, ancient power. Then she slowly bent her back again, wrapped herself in the blanket, and returned to her curled position by the fire. Like nothing had changed. Davin lay back down, heart pounding. He didn't know who he had let into his shelter. But he had a feeling this was only the beginning. Davin woke with a jolt. The fire had burned down, and the shelter was cold again. He turned quickly, eyes scanning the room. Mari was lying by the fire as before, small and motionless under the blanket. Had he dreamed it? That strange moment, the tall figure, the glowing eyes, the quiet power she showed before curling back down like nothing had happened. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt too real. Gavin sat up, rubbed his eyes, and checked the outer sensors. The storm had passed. Air outside was still toxic, but calm. He looked back at Mari. She was watching him again, silent, unmoving. Her eyes were different this morning, clearer, more focused, not confused like before. "You sleep deep," she said softly. "Storm ended." Davin narrowed his eyes. "Yeah, lucky us." He didn't mention what he saw last night. "Not yet. You remember how you ended up out there?" She looked down. "Left behind. Long ago. Tribe gone. I stayed. Waited." Her voice had weight now. No longer trembling or weak, but controlled. Davin felt his suspicion grow. She wasn't just recovering. She was revealing something slowly, choosing what to show. Still, she winced as she tried to stand, her hand gripping the wall. Her body did look frail, bones too thin, skin still cracked. He helped her up, careful, not to touch her too much. Her skin felt too warm, like the metal under the fireplate. "Why wait?" he asked. "For someone to find you?" She looked at him. "No, to see. Who would help?" Davin blinked. "That a test?" She didn't answer. She just pulled her shawl tighter and turned toward the door. "I go. Must bury the bones." He frowned. "What bones?" "Mine," she said, and walked outside. The air still stung the skin, but Davin followed her. She moved faster than before. Still hunched, still limping, but with purpose. They walked through ash plains and broken rock until they reached an old crater. Inside it were the remains of a ship, not human. Smooth, crescent-shaped, half swallowed by time. Mari stood before it in silence. "My home," she said quietly. "Long ago, my body died here." Davin looked at her sharply. "What do you mean died? You're right here." She bent and brushed ash from a half-buried shape. A skeleton. Curved skull, long arms, robe still clinging to the bones. It was her, or at least something that looked like her. "This form," she said, pointing to her own face, "is not real. It is borrowed. What you saw last night. Closer to truth." Davin backed a step. "You're not Mari." "I was," she said, "but I have been many things. I wear this shape so you would not fear me." His mind spun. None of this made sense. He looked down at the bones, then back at her. "What are you?" She met his eyes. Something forgotten. A spark left behind. A god once loved. A goddess once cursed. "Your people call us myths." Her voice grew deeper, fuller. "I waited here for kindness. Not power, not fear, just a hand. Reaching out with no reward." Davin felt his pulse rise. "So what now? You've seen it. I helped. I didn't know who you were." She smiled sadly. "And that is why it matters." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A burst of heat erupted from the broken ship. Mari's eye raised her hand. From the wreck, a bright core floated into the air. "My heart," she said softly. "Buried long ago. I could not reach it alone." Davin stared at the pulsing object. It floated to her like a living sun. She touched it, and her entire body lit up from within. Her skin turned gold. Her hair shimmered like rivers of starlight. She was radiant, no longer frail, no longer small. Davin stepped back. "Stop. You said you didn't want power." "I don't," she whispered. "But I must be whole. Before I leave." "Leave?" he asked, heart racing. "You're going now?" She looked at him, a flicker of emotion on her face. "You still don't see, do you? You woke something in me I thought was lost. I came here to die quietly. But now—" She touched his chest, and energy pulsed through him, warm, electric, addictive. "Now I'm not sure I want to be alone again." Davin dropped to one knee, gasping. He felt something inside shift, like the fire she carried had entered him. His hands glowed faintly. His breath steamed in the warm air. "What did you do?" he gasped. She looked down at him with something that was not quite pity, and not quite love. "I gave you a part of me, so you would understand." "Understand what?" He managed to whisper. She turned away. "What?" "It feels like when you're worshipped by stars, but still long for one simple touch." And then, in a sudden flash of heat and light, she vanished from view, leaving only her voice behind. "I will return. When your body stops shaking. When your heart can hold me." Davin knelt alone in the ash, glowing faintly in the fading sun, not knowing what he had just become. Asterisk. Davin was burning from the inside, not in pain, but in pressure. Heat rolled through his chest, through his spine, into his hands. His skin glowed faintly under his sleeves. His breath came faster, not from fear, but from the strange humming. Energy dancing inside his bones. He stumbled back into his shelter, hand gripping the frame to stay upright. Everything felt louder, the crackle of the fire, the tick of the old coolant valve, even his own heartbeat. He looked at his fingers. Light leaked from under the skin like starlight trapped in flesh. "What did she do to me?" He whispered. He had only wanted to help a weak-old alien survive a storm. That was all. But Mari was never just a frail elder. She had never been helpless. She had been watching, waiting, testing, and now she had given him something he didn't ask for. A part of her. A gift? A curse? He didn't know. He tried to sleep, but every time his eyes closed, he saw her Zyrea standing tall, radiant, impossible to forget. The look in her eyes had shaken him more than the fire in his veins. It wasn't just power. It was loneliness. She had lived for eons, seen stars born and die, but all she wanted was someone who cared without knowing who she was. The next morning, Davin felt stronger. Not just rested, amplified. He moved faster, lifted heavy metal crates like they were feathers, fixed a broken heater in seconds. His mind raced, solving puzzles he used to struggle with. He didn't need food. He didn't feel cold. It was like his body was running on sunlight. And yet, he felt hollow. The fire inside was not his. That night, he spoke out loud into the empty room. "Zyrea, are you still here?" No answer. Just the wind. He stood outside under the dark sky. The stars seemed closer. He looked up and whispered, "Why me?" Suddenly, the fire inside pulsed, and he saw something. A vision, not a dream. Not his memory. Hers. He stood in the middle of a great alien city, towers of glass and crystal, shining in golden light. A younger Zyrea stood on a platform, surrounded by thousands of worshippers. They bowed. They chanted. They called her Mother of Flame, Bringer of Dawn, Queen of the Endless Veil. She looked proud. But she wasn't smiling in the next flash. She sat alone thousands of years later in a temple crumbling with age. The same people were gone. Their cities, dust. Their loyalty, forgotten. She sat alone in silence, her hands empty, her voice unheard. Davin fell to his knees, gasping. The vision faded. He understood now. She didn't want worship. She wanted truth. A real moment. A human moment. He had given her that without knowing. That was why she chose him the next day. Davin decided to find her. He couldn't live with this power inside him, this constant burning. He needed answers, needed her. Whether to give it back or to understand it. He followed the trail back to the crater. The bones were gone. The wrecked ship had vanished. In its place stood something else. A tall archway made of stone and light, pulsing with energy. A portal. He hesitated, but his body responded before his mind did. The fire inside him wanted to go. Needed to. He stepped through. The world on the other side was like nothing he had ever seen. A floating island in the sky, clouds drifting below. Like slow rivers. Trees that shimmered with silver leaves. A sky full of moons and colors that didn't exist on any human spectrum. And there, by the edge of a glowing lake, stood Zyrea. She had changed again, taller. Her skin now reflected stars, her hair flowing like liquid light. But her eyes were still the same, sad, soft. You came, she said. I had no choice, Davin replied. You left something in me? She nodded. I left myself in you. Why? He asked. You could have erased me, taken it back. I wanted you to understand, she said. Not just feel my power, but carry it, know it. Hold it in a way no one else ever did. Davin stepped closer. You're lonely. She blinked, slowly. Yes, he looked around. This place. It's beautiful, but it's empty. It's mine, she whispered. And it's all I've had. For a very long time. Davin didn't know what to say. His chest ached. The fire pulsed again, warmer now, not burning. He understood her more than he wanted to admit. What happens to me? He asked quietly. She looked up, her face unreadable. You keep changing. Until your body can't hold me anymore. Or until you choose. Choose what? To become what I am. Davin's breath caught. A god? No, she said. A memory. A myth. A creature of light. Loved by no one. Needed by all. He took a step back. I'm not ready for that. She touched his cheek. Then I'll take it back. He hesitated. And if you do, will I forget you? She didn't answer. He looked into her eyes, heart pounding. Don't take it, not yet. Zyrea stared at him for a long moment, and then nodded. But understand, she said, this path has no return. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked. A beam of light shot into the sky. The sky roared. Something ancient had noticed him, and it was coming. Asterisk, the sky above the floating island began to darken, not with clouds, but with shadows that moved like they were alive. Shapes twisting and slow, coiled behind the light like distant storms. Davin stood frozen beside Zyrea, the warmth in his chest now trembling like a fragile flame. She turned her gaze upward and whispered, They felt you. Davin swallowed. Who? Zyrea didn't look at him. The Watchers. The ones who banished me. The ones who believe mortals should never carry divine fire. He stepped back, fists clenched. You said this wasn't a curse. You said it was a gift. It was, she said, voice softer now. But to them, it's a crime. Above them, a long crack of light tore the sky in half. From it, a single spear of darkness dropped downward, screaming like metal dragged across stone. It slammed into the far side of the island, leaving a burning crater. From it rose something tall, sharp, an inhuman and armored being with no face, only a glowing blue eye in its chest. Davin stared. "That thing's here for me?" "For both of us," Zyraya said. "But mostly to take you." The being stepped forward, its body shifting like flowing stone. It raised one long arm, and energy gathered around it like a storm. Zyraya didn't move. "If you run now, they'll chase you forever. If you stand here, you may die." Davin stepped in front of her. "Then I stand." The spear struck. Davin lifted his arms. The light inside him exploded outward, meeting the energy head-on. The blast knocked him back across the stones, his body smoking, breath stolen from his chest. He coughed hard and stood again, body glowing brighter now, pain humming under his skin. Zyraya rushed to his side, eyes wide. "Your body isn't ready for this much power." "I don't care," he growled. "I won't let them take you." More shadows dropped from the sky, 5, 10, a dozen. Each one tall, faceless, glowing. Each one locked onto him. "They think you're a weapon now," she said. "And I'm the mistake that made you." Davin looked at her. "Are you?" She hesitated, and then shook her head. "No, you're the only thing that made me feel alive again." The ground cracked. The floating island began to break apart. Pieces of rock fell into the swirling void below. Zyraya grabbed Davin's hand. "We have to go. Now." He pulled her closer. "Where?" "Anywhere away from this place." With a flash, she opened another portal. Through it, Davin saw a desert moon, dead and dry, but untouched. A hiding place. As they ran toward it, one of the watchers moved faster than the others. It teleported ahead of them and raised both arms. Davin saw the energy forming like black lightning. He pushed Zyraya aside and charged. The blast hit him square in the chest. He didn't fall. Instead, something inside him cracked open. A fire she left in him spilled out, not just light, but memory, power, voice. The sky lit up with images, visions of Zyraya's past, of ancient cities, of love and loss, of divine pain hidden under beauty. The watchers hesitated. For the first time, they saw him not as a thief, but as a mirror. Zyraya ran to Davin. "You're burning out," she cried. He smiled weakly. "Then take it back." "I can't," she said. "It's bound to you now. It grew in you." "I'm not a god," he said, falling to his knees. "I'm just a man. And you're stronger than anything they've ever seen." The watchers raised their arms again. Davin looked at her one last time. "Then give me all of it," Zyraya gasped. "You'll die." "Better that than run." She placed both hands on his chest. Their foreheads touched. In one final moment, she poured everything into him. All her power, all her light, all her loneliness. His body lit up like a second sun. The watchers froze. The sky turned white. There was no sound. Only light, asterisk, and then silence. When the light faded, Davin was gone. The watchers were gone. The sky above the island was clear. Zyraya stood alone. No glowing, no fire, just silence. She touched the place where he had stood. But before her tears could fall, a pulse of light shot from the ground, one heartbeat. Then another. And then a voice. Familiar, Zyraya? She turned slowly. From the ashes, a figure rose. Taller, glowing softly, but still human. It was Davin. Alive, changed, but his eyes were his own. And they were looking only at her. Asked ChatGPT. Zyraya stared at him, unable to move, unable to speak. Davin stood barefoot on the cracked stone where the watchers had vanished. His body was glowing with a soft golden light, but his face was still human. Still him. She took a shaky step forward. "Davin, is it really you?" He blinked slowly. breathing in like it was his first breath after drowning. I think so. I feel alive, but not like before. He looked down at his hands. Light moved beneath his skin, like slow fire, but it didn't hurt. It felt natural now, like it belonged. You didn't burn away? Zyraya whispered. No, he said, voice rough but calm. I changed, but I'm still me. She fell to her knees, overwhelmed. For the first time in ages, she wept not as a goddess, but as someone who had lost everything and finally found something again. You survived what no one else could, she said. You took in my fire and shaped it into something new. Davin knelt beside her. He touched her face gently. I didn't do it alone. You gave me the strength. The two sat there in silence for a long time, their foreheads touching. The broken sky above slowly healing into soft silver light. But Davin's mind was racing. He could feel something else stirring inside, knowledge that didn't belong to him. Languages he didn't understand, visions of alien places, and a voice whispering from deep within, not Zyraya's, but something colder. That night, in the shelter they built from pieces of the floating ruins, Davin couldn't sleep. He stood by the edge of the cliff, staring at the stars. Zyraya joined him quietly, placing her hand on his arm. There's more coming, he said. I can feel them. Others like the Watchers. Zyraya nodded slowly. They'll come. You're not invisible anymore. You carry divine energy now, and that attracts things much older than me. Then we run? Davin asked. She shook her head. No, we prepare. Over the next few days, Davin discovered what he could now do. He didn't need food or sleep. He could lift entire pillars of stone. His hands could heal broken things, even old machinery buried in the sand. He could speak languages he'd never heard before, but the most surprising thing was his empathy. He could now feel what others felt, just like Zyraya once had. When she stood beside him, he could feel her emotions like a warmth against his chest. Sadness, awe, love, fear. You're part of me now, she told him one night. More than I ever planned. More than I thought possible. But something darker was coming. Davin felt it every time he closed his eyes. It finally arrived during the sixth sunset. The sky didn't darken slowly, it shattered. Cracks formed in the clouds like spiderwebs. From above came a cold, swirling light, and in a voice that wasn't a voice at all, he carries the seed. He is unfinished. Zyraya pulled Davin close. They found us. Out of the light came a form much different than the Watchers. This one was made of pure thought, a shifting pattern of faces and echoes. It hovered above them, silent and judging. Davin stepped forward. What do you want from me? You are not chosen, the voice said. You were made by mistake. I made the choice, Davin shouted. I accepted the fire. You were touched by forgotten power. That power is not yours. I earned it, Davin growled. I didn't steal anything. Zyraya raised her hand. Enough. He chose freely. That means something. The being shifted. For a moment. 1,000 eyes blinked in unison. Then he must choose again. Human or starborn. Flesh or flame. There is no middle path. Davin's breath caught in his throat. What does that mean? The being spoke no more. It simply waited. Zyraya stepped closer. They want you to give it back, Davin. Or become like them, something not quite alive, not quite real. He looked between them, the being of light and the woman who had started it all. I want to stay human, Davin whispered. But I also want to keep what I've learned, what I've become. Zyraya touched his chest. Then you must walk the edge of the fire. Carry both. But it will hurt. I can take pain, he said. I've taken worse. The being began to fade, but its final words echoed across the sky. The moment you love, the flame will take everything. Davin turned to Zyrea. Her face was pale. They mean me, she said quietly. He reached for her, but she stepped back. If we stay together, it will destroy you. Or destroy me, or both. I don't care, he said. We'll find another way. She shook her head slowly, tears in her eyes. There may not be one. Then the wind picked up. The ground shook. The stars above began to pulse. Something was coming again, but this time, it wasn't just for him. Asterisk, the wind howled like a warning across the cracked desert plain. The stars flickered as if afraid. Zyrea stood still, staring up at the sky, that now beat like a slow, massive heart. Davin stepped forward, glowing softly in the twilight, his body caught between two worlds, human and something more. He could feel it now, deep inside his chest, a flicker of fire that had once belonged to a goddess, now woven into him. We don't have time, Zyrea whispered. Something ancient is crossing through. It's bigger than the Watchers. Bigger than anything I've seen. Davin nodded, his voice calm. Then we end it, together. She looked at him, sorrow and love in her eyes. If we fight together, the flame inside you may take me. You heard what the voice said. The moment you love, truly love, it will burn through everything. He stepped closer, took her hands, then let it burn. I'd rather die loving you than live without you. Her lip trembled. You don't understand. If it takes me, if I vanish, you'll live with that memory forever. The fire won't kill you. It'll leave you behind. To remember. I want to remember, he said gently, even if it hurts. The sky cracked open like glass. A massive shape emerged like a world turned inside out. It had no face, no eyes. Only gravity and voice, a storm made of thoughts and judgment. Carry what was forbidden, it said, shaking the very air. You bonded with the fire of the fallen. That union cannot exist. Zyrea stepped forward, hair glowing like ribbons of light. It exists now. You cannot undo what was made with choice. The being trembled. And it must be paid for. The light above began to fall toward them, like the sky itself had become flame. Davin pulled Zyrea close and kissed her soft, slow, final. The fire inside him responded like a living heart. It grew, it screamed, it wanted to consume. And Zyrea did not resist. She looked into his eyes and whispered, I'm ready. He wrapped his arms around her and let go. The fire exploded out of him not in rage, but in love. It didn't destroy. It reshaped. Every piece of memory, of sorrow, of longing, poured into the sky. The ancient being was pushed back, not by violence, but by understanding, by emotion, by something it could never control. Zyrea's body began to dissolve into golden light, piece by piece. But her smile never faded. You were the one who reminded me what it felt like to be seen, she said, voice now soft as mist. Thank you for helping an old, forgotten goddess feel alive again. Tears filled Davin's eyes. He tried to hold her tighter, but his arms passed through her, like sunlight through water dot. She raised her hand one last time and touched his cheek. Live, Davin. Don't become like them. Live human. Live bright. Then she was gone. The light faded. The sky healed. The ancient being vanished without a word, swallowed by silence. Davin stood alone under a new dawn. The fire inside him was still there, but quiet now. A warm ember instead of a roaring blaze. His heart ached, but it didn't break. She had left. Something behind, not her power, but her essence, her memory, her love. Days passed. Then weeks. Davin wandered across the stars, fixing broken machines, healing strangers, touching lives in small, quiet ways. he didn't speak much of Zyrea. But those who met him swore they saw starlight in his eyes. One day, far from any settled world, he came upon a dying moon colony. No power, no hope. Children crying in the dark. He sat with them, lit a fire, and from the glowing flames, he told a story of a traveler who helped an old alien woman survive a storm, of a goddess who was not what she seemed, of a love so deep it reshaped the stars. And when the story ended, the fire rose one last time, and for a brief moment, everyone there saw her, a figure of light standing behind Gavin, smiling, then gone, but not forgotten, because she had taken nothing. She had given everything Dot, and Gavin, the human who chose kindness without reward, became the story the stars would never stop telling. Dot, the story of the man who loved a goddess and was never the same again. The end. Asterisk.